best form after a tough 18 months.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud, and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
It's 7 o'clock. This is Eamon Falvey. Good evening. The British Prime Minister says he believes the concerns of the DUP are met by the new Windsor framework. The deal has been agreed by the British government and the European Union after difficult negotiations. It sees London gain the power to govern VAT and excise rules in Northern Ireland while introducing green and red lanes for goods entering Northern Ireland. Stormont will also have a veto over new EU laws on goods applying in Northern Ireland. The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he believes the measures address DUP concerns.
I think today marks a turning point for Northern Ireland. I've spent a lot of time listening to communities there, businesses there, the unionist community as well, understanding their concerns, and I believe that today's framework addresses them.
The DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson says his party will consider the text of the deal to see whether they can support it.
Well, without preempting our assessment, it seems to me that progress has been made in a number of key areas, but there are still issues of concern in some sectors that we think will still need to be looked at.
The Justice Minister is aiming to amend laws to increase sentences for assaults on Gardaí and emergency services workers by the summer. Simon Harris wants to introduce a maximum sentence of 12 years for anyone who attacks frontline workers. He met with members of the GRA and the AGSI this afternoon in what he described as an excellent meeting. Minister Harris says he's determined to build stronger, safer communities.
At that meeting I made it very clear to both associations that I share their view that there needs to be action in relation to sentencing for anybody who carries out an assault on a member of a Garda Síochána or indeed an emergency worker. We need to send out a very clear message in the Oireachtas that such attacks, such assaults will not be tolerated.
And that's your news update. It's 2 minutes past 7.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Best birthday present ever. Give a Ryanair gift card.
Mostly cloudy with some clear intervals. Some patchy light rain is possible later tonight. Highs of 3 degrees. Now you're up to date on Newstalk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs razor with exfoliating bar.
This is Newstalk.
Oh, Manchester United fans, the good times are here. We are back. We're certainly not terrible anymore. Pat Nevin is with us on the football show to chat about the weekend that was. We will have Fiona Hayes and Matt Williams on Monday Night Rugby. That's after 8 o'clock. 7:30 we'll chat to James Ryan, Irish captain at the weekend in Rome, and more to the point, back to his very best form after a tough 18 months. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack's with us as usual. Hello.
Evening, Joe.
And Michael McCarthy, good evening.
Hey, Joe. Been here all along. Didn't just come back in there 2 seconds ago.
I read, akin to when you put a podcast on half speed, I read that intro slower than usual to buy you time as you sprinted to get your headphones.
I forgot my headphones. I apologise. I had to go all the way
These
back to my
things
desk,
happen.
which is the furthest desk away of all of Team Off the Ball from the
We're
studio.
in a period at the moment where the Irish rugby team are both trying to win the Six Nations, but it's also about learnings.
Yeah.
Key
Or what?
learning
Sure.
from the
Sure.
weekend, key learning, slowing down Ireland's call, not good.
No.
It was important to try it. We tried it out. Not for us.
Or some Italian Artane Boys band or whatever did, yeah. That was bizarre. Wasn't it?
Yeah, I was wondering would the players adjust, but they didn't. They stuck to their tempo. It's important.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a well-drilled team right there.
Indeed, yeah. James Ryan manfully went to the end. He's with us this evening. We'll put these key points to him, amongst others.
Yeah, captain for the day. Played well, and be interested to hear from him. I thought, like, it's funny, we'll get into it in detail, I think, on Monday Night Rugby, but Ireland it was that sort of performance where you were, like, at times tearing your hair out, but also at times I thought, in the first half especially, I thought Ireland played rugby that I could never imagine coming from an Irish rugby team, watching them since, the late 80s, early 90s. There was times in the first half where every single Irish possession was going to be a try chance. And, you know, we can take positives and negatives. It was far from a perfect performance, and Italy were brilliant. But I don't think I've ever seen them play rugby like that.
I know, we're taking it for granted a bit. Not least when you go from that to half-time in Cardiff, Wales 3, England 8. It was like a game from the 70s.
That's the good times, Joe. That's proper traditional rugby, which is fantastic. No, do you know what? And to Mick's point, to broaden it out a bit, generally the championship as a whole has actually been fantastic, and you just have to look back on yesterday's game as well, which was a remarkable piece of business between France and Scotland in Paris.
Yeah.
Generally, the championship has been one of the most open, one of the most try-laden that I can remember in recent times, and the England-Wales game is the only real black mark on that front that I can really recall, particularly anyway the first half, and that's down to, I guess, factors that you're probably going to get into, which is two sides very much in rebuild mode and one further along that path, as Andrew Cotter put it, more serenely down that path than possibly Wales are at the minute. But generally the championship has actually been brilliant, and the under-20s has been class as well.
They'd have been better off going on strike. It's probably no, but it's funny, I was watching that on Saturday evening thinking to myself, like, that's one of the great fixtures, Cardiff, Wales, England. I watch that every year, you know what I mean? I'll skip the odd Six Nations game that Ireland aren't involved in, I admit, but I'll always watch Wales and England. And I was watching that on Saturday evening thinking to myself, this isn't going to come up in the newsround. I don't need to watch this. What am I doing? And I stuck with it. I did watch it, but I was like, it was purely for, you know, duty more than anything. It was terrible. They were playing a different sport than Ireland, Italy beforehand.
Do you judge your viewing by what will come up in the newsround?
No, but I suppose if I'm already watching something and I'm thinking of turning it off, I'll think, like, here, have I already committed enough to this that I should know?
I see, okay.
Yeah. So you've got a full 3 hours to worry about. You know, I've only got whatever you or Richie are going to throw at me for half an hour.
James Ryan with us 7:30. Great to have him on. I haven't spoken to him in years at this stage. And he had spoken in November about it taking some time for him to get his confidence back, just in his body, and in particular in his head, frankly, because his run of concussions or quasi-concussions was just so dreadful for a long time. I think there were 6 in almost 18 months. 2021, rounds 1 and 4 of the Six Nations, Wales and Scotland, there were injuries. There was one against France as well. So several weeks out after that Six Nations. He missed the Lions, you remember, so it very much interrupted his summer. And the thought of James Ryan missing the Lions a few years previously was like borderline crazy. Then, staying in that same year, the November internationals failed HIA against Argentina. Again, there's time out, comes back in December. Last year's Six Nations, he's starting to maybe find his feet a touch again, and at Twickenham, Charlie Ewels shoots out from the line and borderline decapitates him. And again, that's more time out. It was the most awful run. So thankfully, since 11 months ago, it's been a much cleaner slate. But you know, throwing yourself around with abandon after going through what must be traumatic in a way is no small thing. So we'll certainly chat to him about that amongst other things. But he got a run of games now, injury free, and well, no surprise, he's back to his best.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if maybe if some of the discussion about James Ryan's form over the last couple of years didn't take that into account enough. You know, being honest, you know, and it is seeing a guy who's playing at full peak fitness and playing for Ireland every match, playing for Leinster, whenever he's selected, as the way things go in the provinces. But, you know, played a good bit of rugby this year and is certainly showing it. Like, you can tell that he's motoring, you know, and he looks the player that we all got so excited about 3, 4 or 5 years ago again. And look, that's brilliant because, you know, it's funny, we're talking about Ireland disappointing performances and so on. When you actually think of the amount of frontline first team players that were missing on Saturday, it's actually an unbelievable amount. So we need players that are there to be playing to their potential, and thank God James Ryan is back at that level.
Manchester United fans, they're back. My Twitter timeline was awash with
I remember a League Cup wasn't that important.
Oh my God,
Manchester United.
It's like a Champions League.
It was huge. It actually did feel like it felt like a big moment for the club. Now, whether that actually kicks on to anything or not, it's not like Manchester United haven't won any trophies in the post Fergie era, but there's just this absolute need for this to be the start, the first trophy of many in the Ten Hag era, and the start of a new era of domination for United in English football. You know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it was a big. Do you know what? It was how comfortably they did it.
And it's built on real steady progress as opposed.
Oh, without a doubt, it wasn't just one of
wins.
those. Yeah, I mean they've been brilliant for the last couple of months, but again, it was playing against a team who have completely run out of legs, and haven't been right in 3 months, and
raining on the parade.
I'm not raining on the parade. I'm finding the parade fascinating, amusing.
Well, so the whatever the residual Manchester United fandom of mine that is left from a hardcore childhood of really loving them.
You're always qualifying that. Go on.
Just I don't connect with this team or teams of recent years the way I once did. I lived and died by Manchester United once upon a time. I must say it's less fun now because Erik ten Hag has made them solid, and so I now tune in knowing they're not going to lose 8-0 or 6-0 or like a Brentford. That was the last great day. The day of texting people, can you believe how terrible this is? This is unbelievable. Look, I'm the Andy Farrell of Manchester United fans. I embraced the adversity.
Yeah.
And I thought it was more fun.
Well, I'm interested to hear that from a Manchester United fan. For the rest of us, that's the golden age. And it went away so quickly because Ten Hag came in and they had the end of last season was amazing because I thought West Ham were going to catch them and knock them straight out of Europe because you just weren't picking up any points and you didn't know what was going to happen from one game to another, and that continued on last season in a way that actually maybe I do know what's going to happen. They're going to be a calamity and get hammered. Yeah, and then he got it back together and now it's boring. You're right.
I know,
right.
Like hammered, and then it was like, oh my God, Roy Keane's in the studio. This is going to be amazing. And now it's just like, they were good. Casemiro's deadly, isn't he?
Yeah, it turns out Brentford and Brighton both better than we thought they'd be this year as well. I'm not saying they weren't a calamity. They got rid of Ronaldo. That was the last. Was Ronaldo's release quietly during the World Cup with a Ten Hag press conference a full 2 weeks away when he kind of didn't mention it anyway, the official end of the United banter era? Like, I mean, when we get the threads... on Twitter or whatever Twitter's replacement will be in
that was
a couple
the day
of
the
years.
music died.
That could be the last entry.
Yeah. It's just less of an event now, Richie.
It's too solid.
The 6-0 losses, the protests, the rants in the Sky Studio. It's now like, they won 2-0 again.
Yeah, too solid, too perfunctory. It's like it's bland in a way in its success. Tell you what, Alex Ferguson, as Stephen Doyle pointed out, he's become more visible since United have become more successful, hasn't he?
Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, strange one, isn't it?
Yeah. He's holding court on why Rashford's a left-sided player. It wasn't saying boo for 10 years.
Getting invited into the dressing room yesterday after the win and all that. It's great to see him at the centre of success.
Is that Ferguson looking for reflected glory? Because
yes.
I'd read that, maybe that's true, and he's never been one for a small ego. But I'd see that as, I can't be involved because people will be asking me questions I can't answer when things are at their worst. So now I can come out of my cave.
Well, the more charitable version would be he recognises this is a manager who's obviously now we can all say of serious quality. So actually my presence in and around the team is not just impossible yardstick to be compared against.
He thought David Moyes was that manager as well, to be fair. And like he's wanted the reflected glory of whatever may come since he left, since he stood on the pitch and said, your job now, as regards David Moyes. Like he's wanted to be the father figure of what came next ever since he stepped down, and now he gets to be that.
Do you not think he was, not happy they were losing, but didn't mind 5 years of the empire crumbling?
It supplanted his legacy. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Like, the longer United were a rabble after Alex Ferguson, the more his rightly acclaimed achievements were going to matter. His stats at the time seemed incredible, but we were living through them, and then he's gone, and already you're kind of thinking, Jesus, when you actually look at that, like 13 league titles, that's insane. And then you kind of see what happens after he leaves, and it goes even to a higher pedestal. So there's no doubt in my mind that he was glad about that.
It would be a huge.
At least some part.
If they won 3 Champions League, if David Moyes won 3 Champions League in a row, sorry, Fergie would be like,
sorry, can we clip that?
I want to live in that parallel universe.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. On a serious note, though, like Ten Hag does look to be genuinely the real deal. I was reading some pieces about his interview at the club at the start of his tenure, and it was very, like Richard Arnold was there, and I mean, what an upgrade Arnold is versus Ed Woodward. Like, you can't disentangle the last decade from Ed Woodward's awfulness. And Darren Fletcher was there as well for the interview process, a man who would both know football and I think have an acute sense of what had gone wrong at the club. And the word is that by all accounts Ten Hag came in, and in that very steely way that we've come to know, he just said, this is terrible, this aspect of the club also terrible, this and this all need to change. It's a disaster. He had a very detailed presentation on the club, top to bottom. And Pat Nevin with us later on, who, in so much as he could say, he knows Darren Fletcher. And let's just say Fletcher was sitting there pretty thrilled to hear that.
Okay. Thank
God, some home truths for, these are my words, not Fletcher's, the idiots running this place. Yeah. And that maybe, they therefore really push for Ten Hag over Poch, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, like, isn't that a fascinating thing that like, you can work yourself into such a rabble and standards can drop so much that it takes that kind of hard-ass approach sometimes to kind of do a complete reset. That's not the easiest thing to do in the world.
No.
Yeah, like at any level, at any type of company, or, because you are going in and completely ripping the work of everybody that's been sitting in that room over how long. But probably if it's not done, nothing ever changes.
True, and look, it probably helps that Richie Arnold's freshly in. Ed Woodward might not have been as keen to hear that messaging. You're forgetting, guys, United also whacked Barcelona, the best team in Europe last week, so not just Newcastle. I think there's a touch of sarcasm.
Barcelona were very, 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 very poor on Thursday night. Oh my
sarcasm there.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to, because I just feel like I'm always on the other side of Manchester United are back, and it's not fair. They went behind in that game, and you're sort of thinking, I just think that 3-4 months ago United weren't coming back and winning that game.
Oh yeah.
I think I like, we can make fun of Barcelona being the best team in Europe or it only being the League Cup. They're making huge strides. Like, it's, all joking aside.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, there is something real happening at Old Trafford. Lads have been stuck in traffic all day. There's that many United fans crawling out of the woodwork to get back in the bandwagon, says Sean. Liverpool won League Cups and UEFA Cups in the first 11 years of nothingness post 1990. Just saying, says the Roscommon Raquelme. And can we please slow the Italian national anthem down next year at the Aviva, if only for the sheer comedy of it? And then this person spells out tal ... Yeah, you get the point. Works better in text form, but I'm trying to bring it to the radio. Let's
did admirably.
Let's start the Newsround, brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Richie, where are we going?
Rugby first. Finlay Bealham is going to miss Ireland's remaining Six Nations games with Scotland and England. The Connacht tight head suffered a twisted knee in Saturday's win over Italy and was replaced 4 minutes before the break by Tom O'Toole. News of Bealham's injury will be tempered by the impending return of Tyke Furlong. He has been retained as part of a 27-man mini training camp this week and could make his return at Murrayfield. Robbie Henshaw and Jamison Gibson-Park are also part of that group, having not played in any of the first 3 games of the Six Nations. Scotland will be without Lock Grant Gilchrist for the game on Sunday week after he was red-carded in yesterday's defeat to France. The loss ended Scotland's Grand Slam hopes, but head coach Gregor Townsend remains hopeful they can do the same to Ireland.
Yeah, we'll see, Lou. They're the best team in the world. We've not played them at home for a while with a crowd, so it'll be good to have that. We're going to have to play really well. A lot of the game last year we played well against them, but our discipline let us down, and if you give away penalties to Ireland, they are very efficient around what they do in the opposition 22, so discipline will have to be really good. I felt it was really good today. I felt we were winning a lot of penalties against France. I thought that we could get a yellow card as well. It was penalty after penalty, and it was our attack that was getting the penalties, and you'd just like to think that maybe one more that would have changed things a lot playing against 13 men, but ultimately it was our lack of precision on a couple of occasions that cost us scoring tries.
They were good. Genuinely steel about them now. 19-0 down, less than 20 minutes on the clock.
Should have won that game.
Yeah, Scotland teams of old fold, don't they? So a hyped up Murrayfield for quote unquote the best team in the world pitching in and be sticky.
Yeah, absolutely, but sure, look, isn't that what Ireland want? You know what I mean? Like, you want to grand. Look,
no,
we'd love to get a Grand Slam and it to be easy away, but like my bigger issue with Scotland is that they're coming into the best form nearly of our lifetime as they are the third team in our World Cup group. But at the moment, it's like, right, if Ireland want to go and win the type of Grand Slam that will kick on to win a World Cup, go to a hyped up Murrayfield where they're at their best and find a way to win.
All right, Andy Farrell, can we come back into like the real world here?
This is the way I think of things. I'm all about the milestones and the stepping stones and whatever else, all the different types of stones.
I've always said about you, you're just so comfortable in chaos.
You saw me running into the studio there halfway through your intro.
Actually, you weren't comfortable in that chaos. You were freaked. Totally agree. Long-time Man United supporter here. I was way more interested to see how they'd fix their decline than the brilliance under Sir Alex. Oh, this is pre-Sir Alex. Okay. And I was at Sheffield Wednesday beating United when I was 8. Strachan, Olsen, etc. So a genuine fan, says somebody. Okay. You found the Ferguson fixing things boring. I wouldn't go that far.
Just winning leagues every year. Boring.
Yeah, no, that was still box office.
You probably liked when Dennis Law scored and relegated him back in 1970s splash.
Yeah, I think like for United fans, when they get back into the competing for leagues territory and it's high stakes stuff, then okay, that's exciting again. They're just in that middle ground now of steady eddies, but not likely to win the league.
Yeah. Not even in a battle for the top 4 this year. I think they're in a title race, I have to be honest, but United fans don't want to entertain that at the moment, and I understand why.
I didn't recoil when Gregor Townsend said they're the best team in the world. Usually that'd be what's he up to here? And I'm like, you're damn right we are.
Yeah, people are saying it with a lot more, I don't know, it's definitely a lot more common, and I feel it's a lot less kind of like trying to rise us.
No.
I saw a lot of Italian responses to their performance being like, look at the way we lived with the best team in the world, you know, and there wasn't the kind of a sense of we should have won that game, like, or we threw it away, or it was more what a massive performance from Italy. You know, that's something that we never analyse. We never talk about how good Italy actually were and how good they've been all the way through this championship, and they ran France a lot closer than they ran Ireland. I don't know about you, but I never felt like Ireland were going to lose the game.
No,
I just kind of felt that they'd dig something out, and that's another thing. It's just this that's a change.
I said we there. Not sure about that.
Well, like they're the country you're from, right? Ireland were missing Sexton, Gibson Park, Furlong, Tyke Byrne, yada yada, right? Ringrose, Henshaw. You know, think about all these players. Like Ireland have never. Like, if we were ever in any other part of our history missing that level, that caliber of player from a first team, going to Rome, to a resurgent Italy, we'd have been scared.
So you're saying we as well?
We'd have been scared. We, the public and fans, is what I meant.
Is that how we should be talking? We. I know it's different to like Liverpool fans saying we were really good last night.
I think it's different internationally. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a subject for a slight tangent tomorrow.
Wow, Richie, compelling, no?
On-air production meetings are the best kind.
Yeah,
fact.
It's hard to know. It is tricky as journalists how to talk about the national representative sides. I always think
Yeah.
I think you're allowed to be a bit bipartisan, can't you?
Well, I think we're Irish people speaking to an Irish audience about an Irish team. I don't think there's any sense that we have to be as fair to as down the line towards Italy. It's
be weird if George Hamilton was like, "Can the keeper save O'Leary's penalty?" Whatever the keeper is, it's more a nation hold its breath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Silvio Lunger or Joe.
That's twice. You both call me Jerry here. What's going on?
Something you don't know about.
They do kind of sound like it just comes out of your mouth sometimes.
Right, okay.
I know who you are, Joe.
They sort of crept out of nowhere this morning.
Yeah, Leo Cullen has signed a 2-year contract extension to remain as Leinster head coach. He'd previously signed a series of 1-year rolling deals following his appointment in 2015. However, senior coach Stuart Lancaster departs for Racing in the summer and Jonathan Sexton retires after the World Cup. So IRFU Performance Director David Nusafora says the length of Cullen's new deal will help with continuity at Leinster. Meanwhile, Leinster lock Joe McCarthy is going to be out for 2 months with an ankle injury. In better news, Kieran Frawley increases his training load this week as he works his way back from a knee injury.
Yeah, as you said, it's been 1-year rolling deals for Cullen. So this is a departure and a touch more continuity. Good news for Munster fans.
Yeah, certainly is. I think fans in general after this one too. RG Snyman could make his Munster return against the Scarlets on Friday night. The Springbok lock hasn't played since rupturing his ACL for a second time in October of 2021. Munster say Snyman is available for selection, having returned to full training in recent weeks.
So another busy weekend at GA. What are the headline bits and pieces?
Yeah, Limerick made it back-to-back wins in Division 1A of the Allianz Hurling League. Tom Morrissey sent over 8 points, 5 from play, as the All-Ireland champions beat Galway 24 points to 19 in Salt Hill. Aidan McCarthy scored 110 and David Reedy netted a brace of goals as Clare went mental, thrashing a sorry Wexford 625 to 118 yesterday, while Cork boss Pat Ryan was still unhappy with his players' work rate despite their 27 points to 21 win over Westmeath. Waterford are second in Division 1B after yesterday's 122 to 17 point victory over Antrim. Kilkenny kept alive their own semi-final ambitions with a 34 points to 118 win over Laois in Portlaoise. Roscommon's 100% start to Division 1 of the Allianz Football League came to an end with a 14 points to 11 defeat to Monaghan in Clonus. Donegal remains second from bottom in the top flight following their 1-9 apiece draw with Galway. Derry are top of Division 2 following yesterday's 215 to 7 point win over Kildare. It's now back-to-back defeats for Colm O'Rourke's Meath, who lost by 3 points to Louth and Navan, and Conor Corbett scored 2-1 and Chris O'Jones scored 6 points as Cork demolished Limerick at Pork y Queeve.
Very good. Rich, the clock is slightly coming against us, so some other stories. Shane Lowry 5th at the Honda Classic tournament won by Chris Kirk. Leona Maguire tied for 6th at the LPGA in Honda. We will find out on Friday if Jack Kennedy will ride at Cheltenham. Gordon Elliott will reveal it then. We might just finish up on the passing of Tony O'Donoghue.
Yeah, tributes paid to the former RT Athletics commentator Tony O'Donoghue, who's died at the age of 86. He was one of their voices of the Olympic Games and athletics in general, going from Munich in 1973 right through to London 40 years later in 2012. O'Donoghue lent his voice to many of Irish athletics' greatest ever moments, including Eamon Coughlin's 5,000 metre gold medal at the inaugural World Championships in Helsinki in 1983.
Dimitriev is holding the lead. Coughlin is waiting. Coughlin signals. He's going to go. He looks at him. He is supremely confident. Eamon Coughlin is going to do what he has been threatening to do all his life. He is going to win the World Championship, and with total contempt, he runs away from the entire field. And Coughlin is the world champion. A superb confidence run by a great athlete.
Mick, you were very keen to mention Tony O'Donoghue.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were just going to mention him. Just one of those voices of the Olympics for me, and I always just associate RTE, coverage of the track and field in particular with him and George Hamilton as a brilliant double act, where one of them will take the field and one of them will do the race, and they'll swap over, and you're just spending these Olympic evenings, which is like, for me, that's nearly the imprint of like memories of summers in my life, would be just like, the especially the track and field at Olympics. And they were a great double act. They used to have brilliant conversations, and then they both had the great tempo of like the commentary itself. And it was one of those ones that, I don't know if you agree, Richie, but it almost, you didn't mind which one of them were doing the race. That'd be very unusual. That'd be very unusual that you'd be at a point where you're like, right, who was on here, and it's like, right, it's Sonia, and it's, it's like, right, I hope George gets the call, or I hope Tony gets the call. They were just brilliant together, and they both had a great tone and a great pitch, I suppose, and then they'd be there with each other to reflect on what had just happened as well. It's sad, because again, that's just a voice of kind of my youth of sport anyway, kind of who's passed.
Yeah, George actually had a really good line about him today, saying he wore his intelligence and his knowledge very, very lightly. And Tony was a statistician. He basically looked after the stats a lot of the time for Irish athletics and athletics in general, and they had everything on recall completely off the top of his head. And it's so easy for someone like that to become boring and robotic and repetitive, but there was this mellifluousness to his delivery, and the fact that him and George, as Mick mentions, were a great double act. And like you say, you could happily spend 3-4 hours in their company watching on TV and think nothing of it, and it'd just roll by. You'd learn something, you'd watch something historic or vaguely controversial, and they would handle it just supremely calmly and with supreme confidence. And like Mick says, one of those voices who'll be missed.
Okay, fellas, very well said. Richie, thank you.
Nice, lads.
Mick, thanks very much.
Cheers, lads.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Barry O'Reilly from Dublin became our 8th consecutive winner when he answered a call today. Cash machine reloaded. New number is €21,816.35. Text play to 57557. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock tomorrow, and then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in your own cents, and the cash is yours. So the new number again, 21,816. €816.35. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50. You're playing across the Go Loud network stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com. We are going to talk to James Ryan next.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs razor with exfoliating bar.
There was a monster who lived in the trees, in the house that would rattle and shake in the